Thank you, especially to our kids. Yay is a good response for Easter. But it was not the first response. The women go to the tomb and they find it empty, and the text tells us they are perplexed. Some strange men appear next to them, and they are then terrified. Peter goes later on, and he finds it empty, and he is amazed, and then he goes home. If it were you, if it happened to you, what would you be feeling if this happened? I don't know. Anger, confusion, happiness, sadness, energy, mind-blowedness. All of these things are present in this story. The whole range of human emotion is going to exist here with more than one feeling at a time. And haven't we all lived through times like that before? Those times when we were having emotions that didn't exactly match what we were feeling or thinking, crying happy tears, for instance, or laughing when we should have been crying, maybe, or getting angry when the situation calls for sadness, or being excited and also afraid, or wishing someone well but also wishing they wouldn't leave you or change, or being amazed and being confused, or believing and doubting. Times when you want to run and also you can't move. This is what is meant by the totally inadequate phrase, mixed emotions. The women are first. They went to the tomb at early dawn and found it desecrated. So imagine, those of you who go to visit the graves of loved ones, the stone rolled away, and they went in and there's no body. For sure, their first thought would not be, he was raised from the dead. For sure, their first thought would be, who took the body? And then we're told that while they were perplexed about this, while they were wondering what happened and still taking in information from the scene and what it was telling them, two men in dazzling clothes, angels, drag queens, both all together in one, stand near them. That's where the terror starts. They hide their faces in terror, the story tells us. Why do you look for the living among the dead, they are asked. He is not here, but is risen. And then they remind the women of what Jesus has said, that Jesus must be handed over to sinners, which is all of us, and crucified on the third day, and on the third day rise again. And they remembered those words, and they went and told the 11 disciples and the rest. Most of them didn't believe all of these women. The story tells us, but they thought it was an idle tale. I want to say #BelieveWomen here. But I can't really blame them in this story, because we're talking about dazzling men and large stones rolled away, and not just bodies missing, but bodies risen from the dead. It does sound like an idle tale. And we're talking about a group of people that have just survived a traumatic few days, culminating in the loss of their teacher, their leader, their savior. They are still asking the question, what happened? They're exhausted, they're scared, and they really have no reason to believe the women. They're not even in a place where it is easy to hear and perceive good news. Have you been there? Have you been through times in your life when things seemed so desecrated, so desolate, that you lose the ability to take in the gospel? Times when you've doubted Christianity so seriously that you just run away from it, like Peter? Here in this place, we've all known those hard times. hard and barren places. Here in this place are the stories of loss of children, loss of parents, difficult stories around addiction and mental health and times when you've lost your mind, cancer, Parkinson's, MS, and other diseases and disabilities that have meant a loss for us. Hard family situations around lack of understanding or ability to accept us, relationships that ended, things that happened to us that just shouldn't have happened, or just getting older, which we all know is going to happen. Sometimes we're not aware of the way that ends up changing who we are and how we can live in this world, or what we leave behind when there's more of life behind you than there is in front of you. All the things that we never want to go through. Whatever you've gone through in life, scars that are hidden or scars that people can see, you are here. You have survived. You have resurrected from the dead before, and you will do it again, because we have a God who is saving us in little and big ways every single day. I do wonder, when I think of those men, why they didn't at least go check out the first part of the story, why they didn't at least go to the tomb to see what they might have been talking about, the part about the rolled stone and the empty tomb. None but Peter. Peter goes, and Peter runs. And he found it just as the women had said, and he looked in, and he saw the linen clothes by themselves, and then he went home, amazed at what had happened. Honestly, that's the part that surprises me the most, is that response, that he goes home amazed. He doesn't go back to the disciples and say, the women were right, y'all. He leaves them in their mourning. I guess he's still mourning too, because all he knows is that the grave is empty. He doesn't maybe yet believe the part about where to find Jesus. He goes home amazed. Peter's story, though, honors the gap for us, the gap between faith and understanding, holding those things in tension, just like all of the other emotions that we are holding in tension. By the way, do you think that faith is something that you intellectually assent to, or is it a feeling? Yes. Or is it something else altogether? That would be the other thing. Because I think for me, most of the time it's a feeling. And then I think about it a lot because I'm a pastor. And it's also really one that I'm not very unable to feel, even if the things that I think about make me doubt, which makes for that mixed emotion part. In any case, Peter's feelings and thinkings might match yours. He believes, but he doesn't yet understand. We can also find ourselves believing in the resurrection despite all evidence to the contrary, and see so many hard things happening in our world right now, or experience our own devastating losses. How can such cruelty still exist if this stuff about Jesus is true? I don't understand. And I hope we all believe that all will be well, but all is not well right now. Next in the gospel, you'll see Jesus appearing to two disciples on the road. They don't recognize him for a long time, until he starts opening up understanding in them about all that has happened. And then they sit down for a meal, and Jesus breaks bread, and something happens, and they recognize him, and they realize that it's Jesus, risen from the dead. But he won't stay forever. He disappears. With all of the post-resurrection stories that we'll be telling in the next few weeks, all of the Jesus after the cross sightings, there is in every one of them a mixture of amazement, confusion, fear, hope, trepidation, skepticism, wonder, and emotions beyond which that we have names for at this point, that point to the reality of the tomb that could not hold Jesus, that he is alive, that death does not get the final word here. And we're in that place too. with our mixture of amazement and confusion and fear and hope and trepidation and wonder and skepticism, all of those things together, and resurrection happens around us if we quit looking for the living among the dead. We follow in the footsteps of Peter, who ran because he had to find out, what if what they say is true? What if death is real but not final? Jesus and resurrection doesn't seem to happen right away. The initial response is more confusion, not clarity. People don't recognize Jesus, and they're slow to understand and trust what they will see. Debbie Thomas, who I read a lot before I preach to you, in her blog post on Journey with Jesus, tells us that for her, clarity and hope and healing come when I am willing to linger in hard and barren places, places where the usual platitudes fail, and all the easy answers prove inadequate. A little bit ago, I gave you a litany of things that I know happen to people and have happened to people here. But guess what? In this place is also people who have found love, and you have found friends that care for you, and you have built relationships that matter because people brought you food or sat by your bedside when you weren't allowed to move, held you when grief wouldn't let you go, listened to your stories again and again and again and again when you couldn't quit searching through the grave clothes of a thing that had died. You have hit rock bottom and found a new community of people that brought you back to the living. You have found or made family. You have been through chemo and radiation and come back with a clean scan. You have found new ways to move, new things that matter in your life. Angels have come alongside you, maybe not in dazzling clothes, but looking like the help that you needed, even when you didn't know you needed it. All of this is resurrection. I know none of us are getting out of this life alive. But there is rising among us in the midst of all that happens. This is a resurrection faith, following Christ's consistent pattern of moving to the suffering, the alienating, and the sick, all to bring living, to bring back life from death. Let the resurrection stories find you and work in you, and do their slow work here and now and beyond the time that we know, because it's all happening. I'm going to close with a poem, of course, that I found yesterday. I kept on having this thought in my head, like I know this Alice Walker has a book of poetry that's called Hard Times Require Furious Dancing, and I was trying to find, yeah, I know, right? I was trying to find the poem that has those words in it, and I can remember being at a thing she was speaking at and hearing her say those words as she told a story, this is years ago, because this poem came out in 2008, of being with Palestinian women at another time when it was difficult to be there in Gaza, and with the devastation all around them, they just went into one of the homes and turned up the music real loud because hard times require furious dancing, and they all danced. And it is a way of practicing resurrection. So if you see me up here looking like a fool hoping to get you guys to stand up and dance with me, that's why. Because we're going to practice resurrection as much as we can. So this poem comes out of that book of poems called Hard Times Require Furious Dancing, Alice Walker. It helps to encourage us to leave the tombs behind and find the life. The world has changed. The world has changed. Wake up and smell the possibility. The world has changed. It did not change without your prayers, without your faith, without your determination to believe in liberation and kindness, without your willing to dance without your dancing through the years that had no beat. The world has changed. It did not change without your numbers, your fierce love of self and cosmos. It did not change without your strength. The world has changed. Wake up. Give yourself the gift of a new day. The world has changed. This does not mean you were never hurt. The world has changed. Rise, yes, and shine. Resist the siren call of disbelief. The world has changed. Don't let yourself remain asleep to it. Amen.